Hello, welcome everyone to the Global Summit I Am Possible, an event to inspire you to have the courage to be yourself so we can together create a heart-centered revolution. My name is Mar Guerrero. I am the founder of Alma Kemi, and today I have a Levi Banner, and he's a master level shamanic breathwork facilitator, shamanic astrologer, and a yoga teacher trainer, and he's going to be talking about all of this. And also, first, welcome. And then second, I would love you to start also with your own journey. Like, how did you start investigating all these different disciplines and why?
Okay, yes. Thank you so much for having me. This is a great event and lots of great speakers, so I'm honored to be a part. Yeah, my journey started in kind of a life story in rainy Oregon, and I had a pretty troubled youth. I mean, I had some good aspects, but also just got into a lot of bad things, drugs and alcohol, and crime and all that, and kind of turned that around through music and dance. And through the dance, I found yoga. And that's really, it's like a slow process of unwinding from, and finding the right path. So yoga was found because I was stretching for my dancing. And, with yoga, it's not just stretching. There's it's a whole lifetime path. And that really started to teach me who I really was, deep inside, and follow a brighter, more positive and path. And it wasn't like the first thing, because even as a teenager getting into trouble, I still was like looking at astrology. Just wasn't telling my friends because it wasn't cool. But I was just paying attention to astrology very young, and tarot cards and these kinds of things. And I had pretty cool parents, but it didn't unfold until as I was an adult and really found the empowerment through the hip hop arts that I was into, dancing and music and all that. So yeah, it's really unfolded through my 20s and 30s in such beautiful ways, and just basically embracing different paths of yoga and following them as long as I could to really get the most out of them. And astrology has been a big journey as well. It's been with me the whole time. And, I found shamanic astrology just before I moved to Bali, and breathwork soon after. So yeah, just many branches of stories along my journey, but that's the essence of it right there.
Yeah. And how I'm very interested with the astrology part, because this is why I got into astrology, kind of like these synchronicities that one day I was in Bali doing a yoga course, and then one woman starts talking to me about how with astrology you can understand the psychology of people. And I've been always very into psychology. And that specific day, I went into Yoga Barn, and there was a sign with astrology workshop, and I took that. It was like 7-8 years ago. And so it's for me, it's like, thanks to you, even kind of like this event is happening, right? Because I wouldn't be doing all these things that I do now, or yes, because maybe it would have come any other way. And so I would love you to share, how did you, like, you were already into astrology, but why shamanic astrology?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. You walking into a class of mine, and you taking it so far. It's been amazing to watch
Yes.
you learn and unfold and empower yourself through it. Such a gift, shamanic astrology. And I really owe that to my teachers too. Our teacher, Daniel
Yes.
Chimaru, who
And they
created.
are both in the summit. So it's like, they are both in the summit. Kylie and
Perfect.
Daniel. Yeah.
Oh, such amazing people. You guys definitely watch those if you haven't. Such amazing people. Yeah, so I was into astrology as a kid, teenager, just a little bit, but I immediately learned like moon signs and not just the horoscope sun sign stuff. And I learned all my friends' moon signs, and it was at like 13 or 14. And I just was so fascinated at how much I knew about the people, about my friends, just from more than from their moon signs. And so I dabbled a lot in different types of astrology for a long time, and shared a lot with people that, you know, I was always able to share something with friends. But had this revelation, like I was in India, and I was like, hey, I'm going to become an astrologer. I'm going to like actually go to school for it fully down a certain way. I was looking at colleges, I was looking at programs that day, and I found shamanic astrology. Somebody had just mentioned it to me. So it's just like this series of synchronicities, just like you said. Um, I had just heard about shamanic astrology, and then it pops up on my web search when I'm in Dharamsala, India, waiting for the Dalai Lama to speak. It's just this like, okay, what's this? And I read every word on the website because it resonated. And then I go to contact them because at that time they didn't even have like online courses yet, like at all. And it was like there was no track to become an astrologer with the school yet. So I go to contact the person, and it's Eric who was the managing director back then, and he lived in Portland, Oregon, which is where I was from. So I was traveling, about to go back to Portland, and so I was like, wow, that's weird. He's in Portland. He's quiet. And so I scheduled a conversation with him and a series of readings, and they just blew my mind and opened my heart. And so then, you know, I'm in Portland, and I'm like, you know, as the story goes on of synchronicity, I'm in Portland, I'm in love with shamanic astrology, I'm reading the book, I'm studying it however I can. And then I'm in love, and we're moving to Bali. I'm moving to Bali with this amazing woman, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just, like, maybe I won't study shamanic astrology yet. I don't know, I'll just keep going this way and listening to their online stuff, anything they have. So I moved to Bali, and little did I moved like within walking distance from one of our elder teachers. So I'd go down the street and just hang out with this like really old shamanic astrologer and just talk shamanic astrology. And he was so in love with it, and so was I. And we just hang out and talk. And then he's like, which was so cool for me. And then he's like, oh yeah, man, the founder is going to come visit me. You should meet him. And so Daniel Giamario comes to visit Bali, where I move across the world. And it's like, and then the founder of the paradigm moves, it comes and visits. And so I met Daniel, who's now my mentor and one of my best friends and my main teacher of astrology. And, you know, the rest is history. So
That's
synchronicity.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, you're on
And
the right track, you know.
yeah, and I think it's a great message for many people who are now in this crisis and this like turbulence of like 2020, that you just see what is not working, but you don't know where to go. So it's like it's a great sign of hope that, and the path only unfolds where you are walking. It doesn't, you don't see the whole package, right? Like you don't see all the steps. You just do one, and then it takes you to another one. And then even like your path took started like it is merging with mine, in the sense of like, thanks for you following that, then I found astrology as well in Bali. So it's like that's the magic, and this is how it can spread as well, right?
Absolutely. The you know, following the breadcrumbs or following the path, you know, it's a lot to just trust one thing after the other. Just like you said, it's like you see one thing and you just kind of know it's right because of these messages or these little hints. And I've found to just go with those, as you said, one thing leads to the next, and something much bigger is waiting down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love, now we talk a little bit about yoga and astrology. So what about breathwork?
Oh wow. Yeah, another synchronistic event. Breathwork, I was really into yoga, and specifically pranayama. Pranayama has been, which is the yogic breathing techniques. It's just been my main focus in yoga ever since I found it. I just found that the breath was profound. And so very into it and very educated in that. And I've gone to India and studied with a master there, and all that. when I got to Bali 7 years ago, whatever, I discovered breathwork, which is quite different than the yogic path. It's a cyclical breathing technique, go into altered states of consciousness. It's this whole other modality. And I was blown away at how easy and how powerful a totally different breathing technique was to the very slow and steady pranayama that I'm still doing, but that I was doing then. And so I was like, wow, what is this breathwork? I didn't even know about it. Wow. And so immediately I'm like, I got to study it. This is my thing. I got to, wow, I got to do this, like first breathwork. I was like, this is it. So, um, so I'm like, who are the masters of this? Who can I study with? Who created this? Like, what is this? And so I'm online and I'm trying to find, Stanislav Grof, who's like not really training people, and Leonard Orr, who just passed away recently, and I find, and so I'm studying shamanic astrology at this time, like very intensely. Like I'm so in love with it, as I am still. But it's my first, like, I'm still like learning what the Venus cycle is all about. And so I'm literally looking at and I'm in my Venus return, which is
Me too. Yes.
right now. Okay.
Yeah.
I was then, so I'm scheduled for my next one in a couple of years. But back then at age 32 was my Venus and Mars return, and I'm literally looking at my Venus in the same cycle she was when I was born, in my out my window, because I couldn't sleep. I was like, I woke up in the middle of the night, or I couldn't sleep, and it's a Venus and moon. Venus and the moon are conjunct or together in my window as I'm down. I woke up, I couldn't sleep, and I go down and I'm like, I just breath work. I got to see, and I'm not. And so I get on the computer and I'm looking at Venus and the moon together in my window, just over the laptop. And I'm breathwork, Stanislav Grof, no. And I pull up this website. It's called Venus Rising. And I'm like, what? And then it's like, pop, and it says wolf howling at the moon, kind of like the moon behind me. It says Venus Rising, shamanic breathwork. And I'm just like, what? So it's called Venus Rising with the moon on it. I'm looking in the background. I'm in my Venus return. Pow. And so I was like, so
I think I need to study this one, right? Maybe this one.
Another message. And even the internet's part of this like oracle of this message of the universe.
Yes. And I think even like for me, when I was organizing this, like having the intention for the summit, it's like, is there already too much information? And yes, it's true, there is a lot, but then it's that magic that the right message now can come to you at the right moment, just with a click.
Sure.
So is in that sense, internet is completely, and it's the web, so it's like the web of life. So it's
precisely.
Yeah,
accelerated messages right to your screen. Messages from God or something.
Yeah. And then how did you felt the call to combine these three? Because these are the three traditions, right? Like that you combine in a specific way that is more you, basically.
Yeah, well, that's just what has worked for me. So I took a hold of yoga, pranayama, that whole path of yoga, and just it's worked for me. It's been my solid base for healthy well-being since my early 20s, and I just started sharing it, and it's been such a gift to be able to interact with people and help them on their path. And then astrology's been there and just enhanced itself. So, and then breath. So basically these three paths, in which are separate and whole unto their own, have been what's worked for me in my life. And so I found that they complement each other so beautifully and so clearly that so I started offering yoga teacher trainings. I'd been into yoga long enough and teaching long enough that I felt, okay, I'm going to get into this yoga training thing. I'm going to teach people how to teach so I can reach a wider audience. More people can do yoga because I'm teaching people how to teach others. And I found that there was this greater depth in my yoga trainings when I would share with them about their astrology charts, and the transformation would happen so much more deeply when we would do a breathwork session or two. And I just found that I was teaching for another school. So when I started my own school, when I started sharing my own yoga trainings, I can't leave out these really important aspects of what deepens the student's experience so well. So I can't even imagine doing a yoga training without a breathwork in it, or talking about astrology. They're just flowing out of me. They're all just so part of my everyday life that naturally I just combined them, but not in a way that's like, a lot of people make up their own stuff. They just go, oh, I get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I'm not doing that. So I want to be clear on that. It's like, the yoga path or lineage is its own thing, in which has teachers behind and centuries of practices. And same with the shamanic astrology. It's its own path, as you know, and the breathwork as well. It's a lineage created by Starwolf, who had teachings from a Seneca grandmother, and so they're their own pathways, and they combine, like almost like a confluence of a river when we're studying any of them. When we go to a yoga experience with me or something like that, they all go hand in hand, but they all have their own backing. So it's not a new age made up thing of little pieces. It's like their entirety, as much as I know about them, which is a constant learning, and they're all, together in that way.
Yeah. And you went through the process yourself first, right? Like that, I think is a very important part of like getting in depth one system, and to see that, because there is this danger, right? Like with we learn something, how long does it take us to be really, to integrate that, and then to be able to create what is our calling, right? It's an interesting conversation for me. Having a lot of Aries and a lot of Saturn is my life, basically, right? Because I have ideas and I want them yesterday. Yes, it's like, yeah, and it's like that. And then when I get the vision, is that it has to happen. And then my life lesson is being, yes, maybe it will, but it's going to take time if it's worth it. And that is my Saturn. But not everyone has that strong Capricornian energy. So it's a very interesting conversation. And I think for next year, right, that we have a lot of new with Uranus and a lot of old with Saturn, is very interesting. How do we do this in a healthy way?
Yeah, that's a beautiful point. It is coming to a head next year with that dynamic of even Uranus in Taurus,
Yes.
Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. So there is, you're right, it's a dynamic, and it's always a dynamic, but I think even more than ever, the guru mentality is kind of falling away. That kind of more patriarchal idea that this man it knows what's best for you, and so much on that, and so much to look at as far as authenticity, following one path, so that you're actually taking the initiations, and also integrating them into your life, which does take time with most things. And I think there's something really valuable about that. And in dynamic, that we're in an accelerated time. Everything's accelerated massively since the West discovered yoga or astrology, and or breathwork was created. And so it does go faster now. We have access to indigenous cultures, and I think and practices that have been more widespread, and they're more digestible for people in the West. So there's some beautiful balance, I think, of authentically walking a path and really taking the necessary steps to truly learn and embody it, and in a more accelerated way these days. you know, a faster way than one would have to do before. And I think that that's just, you know, so without diluting it too much by just, you know, having access on the internet and little bits and pieces of things, but also, you know, not having to spend your whole life at the feet of a guru necessarily to get that transmission. So yeah, so I think we're at that we're at a head to that, a very beautiful dynamic in which we can all look at that, especially this next year.
Yes, yeah. And that, and then like, how do we use the technology in a way that is good
Yeah.
for us? No, because it's like that is growing up also so much and it's spreading so much, and it seems that it will more even. So it's like, how do we do it in a way that is healthy for the nature, that it has its own timing? Because we are like going faster, but nature is taking the same time to do, like, the cycles are the cycles.
One point I really love that I was just alluding to that you're bringing up is the fact that we have well, maybe not right now, but we have access to traveling to places on the planet that we never did before. Just over the past few years, really, people are really getting access to indigenous tribes, like in the middle of the Amazon, in the middle of Africa, like places that we couldn't easily get to at all, and now many people I know are going there. And I think that that's beautiful because you can take an airplane and like go to the middle of the Amazon and connect with people that don't have internet really, or that don't have really any knowledge of like cities or have never been to one. You actually go there and learn with them and be with them. And I think that's and like kind of take that, you know, reconnect with Earth, because we're so disconnected from the elements in general Western culture. And I think that that's a beautiful thing of like kind of going back to that, just like living, breathing access to where we actually are beyond the concrete and the television and internet. And so I think that that's a cool, like a beautiful balance that we have. And it goes on that way. Like the other end of that is that we can, you know, broadcast indigenous wisdom and you know, messages of connecting with the earth and all these beautiful practices that we've been talking about today on the internet. And, you know, online programs and people can at home connect to these like ancient practices and earth wisdom through the interwebs. I think it's a beautiful balance possible there. It's just when we go really far in one direction that we get, you know, sick.
Yes, because it's like the body is part of the other side of nature, right? It has its own cycles. For me, this year has been very much like working too much with the computer. It was just clearly not good for the body. It's like my body is not happy with it. And the mind can go like, no, yeah, I'm okay with it. But then the body has a different conversation. So it's like, how do we listen to these different parts that they are all part of who we are? In the individual level, but also globally. So then it's different. Like we can be fast and then take our time at the same time for things.
Indeed.
And I know that you incorporate the elements in, because it's part of shamanic breathwork as well. It's a very important part of Star Wolf teachings. So how do you incorporate the elements within the yoga training?
Yeah, you know, the elements are in all of these practices. So that's actually, you know, once I kind of going back to another question of how do they all combine, yoga, astrology, and breathwork all have the elementals within their teachings. It's so clear, and so it goes along with what we're just saying. It's so necessary to know that that's where everything comes from: earth, fire, air, water, and space. So it's actually throughout all of these practices, and shamanism, yoga, astrology, they all, you know, base their teachings on the elements in part. So I found that very clear and the overlap of shamanic wisdom practices, shamanic practices, and yoga. They're, you know, they have a rich history of being possibly the same thing, and then some differences, but the similarities cross very clearly with the elements. So Starwolf created a program called SHIP, SHIP, the Shamanic Healing Initiatory Process, 25 years ago, or quite a long time ago. She created Shamanic Breathwork 25-30 years ago, and SHIP came thereafter. And me following her track, and you know, that she led as a wolf mama there, I started sharing SHIP because I trained with her so much. And so I'm sharing SHIP through my school, which is a shamanic healing initiation, where we travel through the elements, and utilize all the teachings of each individual element, doing a breathwork journey each time, integrating them. It's really deep and hard and healing.
I cannot imagine a month of that. Like,
Yeah.
I have done the 2 weeks and 2 weeks. So I'm like, how is this a month with yoga in the middle of it? And while
Yeah.
you're trying to learn as well. I'm fascinated with it.
Actually, SHIP is normally only 2 weeks. And so I actually took that, which is just breath work and psychological evaluation and these kinds of things. And I stretched that out. And then I fit a yoga training inside of that instead of the other way around. Like I was putting breath work a little bit in my yoga trainings, and they were shorter time. And instead now I stretched out SHIP. So we have, instead of, you know, a couple days in each element, we have 5 days. So 5 days, 5 elements. And then, which gives a lot of time to study, you know, practice yoga each morning and learn all the, you know, yogic texts and these kinds of things. It actually goes really, really beautifully well to integrate, because I actually have always used yoga to integrate my breathwork journeys. You know, you go on a big breathwork journey, it's very transformational. It takes time to integrate the wisdom that you get from your soul or from the breath. And so yoga has been my like staple. I show up in the morning and I move through my body, I move the energy, things come up. Yoga has been my, you know, a way to do that and understand and integrate and embody the breath work. So anyway, it goes hand in hand, actually. The larger container for fit both very, very beautifully. So it is highly transformational, and a big,
I'm sure.
pot of messy, beautiful energy. But it does work for many people. There are rave reviews. It works great.
And how do you think it helps for people to discover their calling and the sacred purpose in this life? Because it's such an important part of who we are.
Yeah, you know, some really do. When we move through the phases, the initiations and the cycles, you know, we look at our family dramas, our individual shadows, where there's so much gold. We look at our connection to spirit and our connection to self-care and all these things. And it leads a lot of people when we go through that, at least at some level, everyone. It kind of unwraps all the, you know, the layers of programming that we get from the Western culture and our family and all these things, and from ourselves. And as we take off those layers and unpack and kind of dig into our heart and our soul and who we really are, then what's revealed is what we're here for, or what we want to do, and what, you know, what would be best to serve. And so I think it's a natural state that is covered up, you know, and through the practices of yoga, breathwork, astrology, they unveil, they reveal more of just what's already there, who we already are. And then it's just so easy. It's much easier to see and to say what we're here to do in this life.
Yeah, and it takes courage as well as well, I was going to say sometimes, no, I think it's always, right? Because there is all this conditioning that it's telling us to fit some boxes, that this is how every human being has to be. And we are not designed really that way. Each one of us is completely unique. What each one of us is called to bring forward is different. But how do we do it? I think that balance between also just doing it for kind of like the opposite, like you are trying to be seeing, and then all the conditioning is making you to kind of like rebel without a cause. Instead of when you are really like in your center, and then from there you're saying, okay, this is who I am. And if somebody is, it's a very subtle line, I think.
Absolutely. We can go on so long with our conditioning, you know, thinking we're supposed to do this, you know, our whole life purpose is to have a good job and to be married with kids and or whatever, just a good job usually. And that's, you know, we work and live and breathe this career or whatever it might be in your culture. And then also we might figure out at some point that we're just not meant to do that. We might just do something opposite just to not do that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just such a, you're right. It does take a lot of courage to really take the time out to really unwrap and unwind and not just react and really rediscover, uncover, become what you really already are. It does take authentic, you know, work and time and space to really do that. It is a bravery and a courage to do that we all have and can do. And these, you know, the elements, getting back to the basics is really the key, you know, getting back to nature, your true nature, you know, all these different practices, you know, beyond what I'm even talking about. There are so many beautiful techniques and ways to follow, breadcrumbs to pick up, synchronicities to observe, you know, messages um, to take and receive to find your way.
Yeah. And also, I would love, like, I was just thinking about that because when we just connected, for me, Bali is a very special place where I feel at home. And one of the problems, personally, for me in 2020 has been loneliness, in the sense of like this need for community. And I feel that many people are in a similar place. And it's very hard to have the courage to be who you are when you feel alone as well. So it's like, it's so important to have a tribe. And I feel I do have my tribe, but it's like everywhere. So it's also important to have a tribe physically wherever you are, no? So I would love you to talk about like the Bali community and how it helps in a way, or how it works. And also,
Yeah.
like, I know you are doing a garden, so I think there is so much there, because there is a calling for people to kind of like create green
Yeah,
communities, conscious communities, gardens. I don't know. So I
I
would
think
love to know your experience.
sure. One of my favorite subjects. So much
Yes.
Cancer in my chart and Capricorn and all, you know, and I think that it has a lot to do with, you know, even most recently, you know, this whole Capricorn year of 2020 and, you know, the deconstruction of what was before, the composting of culture and into this kind of more Aquarian new year of new ways of doing things. Um, and yeah, it's been even more prominent this year, the Bali community, because normally it's actually a pretty flowing place. You know, with me, Cancer Moon, Cancer Rising, I come from Oregon, where, you know, people are very grounded, very, you know, established, and I grew up most of my life there, and but, you know, it's just part of my path and many others to, you know, leave where I was from, and kind of reestablish what community and family is to me in the world. That's like a personal journey and many others as well. But Bali's been a really special place. I moved here without even knowing much about it. And wow, what an unfolding, what a precious piece of land. This island has this very feminine, motherly energy that just kind of has held us all year. And so normally it's a
I
very
can
flowing
visit.
place, you know, international. It's just like it's just incredible how many people from all over the world are here. You know, being an astrologer here, I've learned more about geography just looking at people's charts when they come to me for a reading than I knew before. It's like, where are you from? Where is that? I didn't know that existed. And so it's just such a big international melting pot. And but it was hard. When I came here, it's actually hard to really sink into community because everyone leaves all the time. More so this year, people have really stayed because it's like be here or go back to where you're from, which is on lockdown. So I planted a garden. It's a permaculture garden. I'm actually looking at it right now over this laptop, and it's overabundant. It's, you know, it's raining right now. It's usually really sunny, but it's so lush, so green, so beautiful. People just come here and just open up and unfold, and Bali really embraces you or pushes you out. You know, it's very clear for most people that way. So it's so healing. Such the culture. Oh man, there's so much to say here. The culture here is so immersed in prayer all the time, and healing is such a big part of their culture and what they share. So it's just a host. This the island's energy, the people here are hosting healing, and that's been really true for me. And I found myself part of that, you know, kind of translating what I share to people and hosting, you know, being really solid here and hosting people's transformations with the practices we've talked about. So it's been such a gift, and my garden is just exploding. I planted it maybe 6-7 months ago, and I'm looking at a tree full of papayas, way too much spinach to eat, way too much, basically way too much everything. It's huge. It's just so lush and tropical. So um, but anyways, the community has really shined this year. I've gotten more time to really, you know, not be so busy sharing and helping people heal, which I've been, you know, it's like the last few years, I'm like, okay, something's about to happen. Like, I just need to share these tools. People need to heal. Like, I need to just share as much as I can. People need to know breathwork. They need to know the astrology. They just need to do this yoga now because it's just hitting the fan. And as it has been, as it did, I've been able to just relax and unwind this year, and just be more of a friend to people and be more established community. So that's just unfolded in my life this year really beautifully. And I'm so grateful for this time and space. Um, and so yeah, Bali is a beautiful place to have a new version of what tribe is. People from all over the world, and an overabundance of great food and a healing lifestyle. So.
And I think it's such an inspiration for everyone that we cannot all move to Bali. Well, I maybe will, but but the others, I don't know. But we certainly can do that everywhere else as well. So it's like each land has its magic that is always different. And how do we truly connect back to that, and how we truly create tribe wherever we are? And if it doesn't happen, like for me recently, it's very clear, like it's not happening that much in Thailand anymore. So then it's also a clear sign it's time to move. And so each person will be in a different place in that sense, right? That is like, are you able to create community wherever you are, or are you in this seeking for, because the journey unfolds in different ways and there are different phases, and but it is important. A tribe is very important, and when you don't have it, is a lot of, like, we thrive in connection with others and in connection with the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed, to have your you know, the people around you that can support you as you move and change, because there are hard times and easier times. Things move and change. It's never the same. But you're reminding me that, you know, how easy it is to actually establish like community, tribe, which is, you're right. I agree. It's more of our natural state of being is to live in family and community. You look at any indigenous culture, even still today or in the past, you know, even nomadic people, you know, we were together. You know, people need people, you know, or else there'd just be one of us. So there's the it reminds me of when I lived in community, just even back in Oregon. In Portland, there was you know, lived in a house, but the house was converted, you know, the basement was converted beautifully into 3 bedrooms actually. and the attic as well, a big, so we're talking 7-8 bedrooms in a house. And whether it's converted or not, I mean, a house can host just people living together, or you can have an intention and actually have community. And so it's just a house, but people living with an intention to support each other or to have some common goal. That's all it really takes to have community, even if it's just let's be a family, or let's all learn astrology or something, whatever. But it also reminds me that our yard, which in the West is, if you even have a yard or a garden, then it's grass, and that wasn't the case. You take out the grass and you plant food. They call it food, not lawns. And so we had a massive garden that at times there's way too much zucchini or pumpkin that we could even eat as 8 people. So it doesn't take much to take out the grass and plant a garden. Or people live in apartments, they live even more in, boxed in cities, and there's a lot of community gardens, that whole idea. It's community, growing food together, and everyone has their own piece and all that. We're just supporting the local, what do they call it, CSA, the community supported agriculture movement, where they have like a garden outside the city or somewhere close by, and then you're basically buying all your produce directly from that, and not just importing it from whatever Monsanto crops. And so they're just a lot of people know all this stuff, but these are all just like little ways to stay more connected with what with community, the earth, the environment, and all these things. And I think it's becoming even more important than ever.
Yes, yes. And it's exactly that. Even like when you said indigenous cultures, we are all indigenous of the planet Earth, right? Some of us, we just forgot. Like our culture just kind of like have this separation from the earth, but we are all from the land. And even like in this expansion of consciousness, it's like we are still on earth, and let's enjoy it. That.
I
And
love that.
it's,
Yeah. That
yeah.
expansion of consciousness could be to realize that you're an indigenous person connected to the earth. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so Uranus in Taurus, right? It's like, how do we do this? Because it's, and I feel it's so important, because if not, we have this danger of just kind of like feeling that we just need to live this reality, and this reality is a very beautiful one if we want to believe that, and we all kind of like contribute. So yeah, I think for me, and it's important to find the inspiration, because it's also sometimes easy to forget, So for me, Bali is one of these places of inspiration, of like, oh, yes, there is
And that
this.
goes with what we're saying, being with community, having close-knit friends group, creating community, cultivating that culture of community holds one accountable. You're always around these people that have the same intention, where you're like bouncing off each other with this inspiration. When one's alone, they can easily lose the plot. They can lose like their purpose and just kind of go with the advertisements and with the kind of the program of the city. But when you're around others that have this kind of like drive, or this rhythm of a common goal or cause, or just living style, then you're more accountable to continuing to work on that.
Yes, totally, totally. So I think, yeah, I would love to, you share a lot of the work that you are offering to the world, but if anybody is listening to us and is like interested to, what are your plans basically also for the
Yeah.
future? And because I'm sure it has been a great shift in that sense, like work-wise, and now we still don't know when is going to be open or everything. So yeah, how can people work with you basically?
Well, uh, great, thank you. Yeah, I'm just now at a place where I'm looking at 2021 and um, utilizing the new ways of being and the internet and stuff. So I'll be doing online programs and online sharing. over these next couple months, and doing that as well as I can. And I'm also, when people are able to gather, when the borders open up, I'll still be hosting the shamanic yoga teacher trainings and the breathwork trainings, the astrology trainings in person as much as I can, because I think that's going to be equally as important. So the sharing in person and the sharing online. Yeah, people can go to my website. It's just levibanner.com, my Facebook page, Levi Banner, Yoga, Astrology, Breathwork, and I have an Instagram. It's all just my name. And I'm making it more of a school this year as well. And so just being on the lookout for that. Yeah, so that's my plans to share. It's just to go with the technology advancements, as well as stay grounded and just be like together on the ground, on the earth, connecting with elements. So going both those ways, as we've been talking about, these cycles are really calling for that. So I'm going with that.
Yes. And any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Oh, no, just thank you so much for the the opportunity to share in this way. And I hope that it's, inspired some of you out there, and to, and I think that, finding your path, or just really getting as much as you can out of any individual path, is gonna lead you the right way. I think the messages that you're receiving are really real, and that following them with trust is the best way, because controlling things is trying to control things isn't always isn't gonna give you exactly what you want or need, what you need or want. So just going with trust, and really listening to the magic that's around you all the time.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yes to everything. And it's hard sometimes, right? Like to trust
Yeah,
is difficult.
absolutely.
And yes, there is no other way, right? Like we try, even like for me organizing the summit, it's like there is a part that is doing the work, but there is a part that it doesn't depend on me.
Mm.
And it's also, first it was the calling of like, you need to do this, but then it's like, wherever it happens with it is not mine 100%. It doesn't belong to me. I'm just here doing the work will go through me.
Mm.
And yeah, we have such a big control issues in general, me the first. So it's difficult, right? Because it's like we are so trained to try to control everything. And even if you don't, it seems it's not professional.
Mm.
So how do we work in a way, and we change the idea of being professional?
Mm.
Because yeah, it's like the idea of being professional is that you have like the schedule, super plan.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, how it works is that I wake up in the morning, and that is when I know what I'm supposed to do each day. I don't know beforehand. I know when I wake up in the morning. So how do I plan my life if that is how my energy works? So is how do we rearrange all of these so that control doesn't take the air out of us,
Absolutely.
so we can breathe.
Yeah. We need
Yeah,
to stay connected to the magic that's always there,
yeah, yeah,
regardless of our schedule. Yeah.
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 Okay. So
Well,
thank you. So, oh, sorry, you were going to say
no,
something.
I was just gonna say I'm there's both here, because I'm glad I put this on my calendar, because I almost forgot to show up for this meeting this morning, today. Even though I've been looking forward to meeting with you, Mar. I was like, oh, I have a talk with Mar today. Oh, I guess
But
I'll
yeah,
do
it's like,
that.
how do we do
Yeah.
that? Yes.
Good thing my calendar told me. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so thank you so much. I was going to share something with that. I feel, and it was something that is very healing for me with
Mm.
my Capricorn moon.
Mm.
That is, yes, it's kind of like flexibility within a structure. And that has
Yeah.
been something that is helping me so much, kind of like you're saying. Yes, I do see a structure, and it's important to have a structure. It cannot be like all over the place, but at the same time, how can I allow magic to happen as well?
Absolutely. And I was going to share something too that brings up, like, you know, that no, you know, following a path is not easy. You know, going outside of the norm is not easy. You know, doing you know, a structured routine is not easy. But when within that, when you get in a rhythm, then so much magic unfolds. That's what I found. You know, if you show up for yoga every day, it's like, it's kind of boring. It's kind of hard. You don't need to wake up. But every time you do, I do, it's like, oh, it's just so, it's so profound. And because of that structure, so much is awakened. It's like a foundation for freedom. Foundations are for freedom. Yeah.
I love that
Consistency
sentence.
is key to be free, I say.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So
So thank
anyway,
you so
yeah.
much, and thank
Pleasure.
you
Yeah.
for everyone who is listening, and then follow those breadcrumbs that they will take you to your magical place. And then, yes, thank you.
Thanks, Mar, for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Big love.